When your kids and grandkids ask you, what were you doing in 2020? What are you going to be telling them? You stayed inside, you wore a mask, you watched Netflix, your 401k lost 40K, you protested, you started a business, you closed a business, you lost your job, you changed careers, you survived the murder hornets. There's going to be so many stories from 2020. And in a lot of ways, it's a case of choose your own adventure. So that's what we're going to talk about today is what are the adventures we're choosing this year?
So welcome to the not the podcast. We're not on a podcast. We're doing a YouTube live. We're unplugged. We're on Facebook. So if you join, hit the hearts button, hit the subscribe button, hit the some other buttons that are, I don't know, hit the buttons. Subscribe, like, share, all that fun stuff. So that's the little plug for that. But today we've been thinking about, man, this is going to have some huge effects. All of this up and down in the market, and do we stay inside? Do we go outside? Can we eat at restaurants? Can we not eat at restaurants? Can we go to the gym or not? Why are we staying home? All this stuff is going to have impacts way beyond what's happening right now. Even like it's going to impact our kids, right? And our kids, some of them aren't even going to college, or not college, but they're not in school, or things. They've just been set back a year. And luckily for us, I mean, we have a 2-year-old that we don't have to worry about doing homeschooling and all of that stuff. And so parents right now are teaching their kids, right? We're teaching them stuff. My question to you is, what are you teaching them about money that we don't even know that we're teaching them about money? That's the thing. I feel like we teach a lot, not by what we do or what we say, but by what we do.
Yeah, for sure. And Brandon, I'm getting a little feedback from your mic. I don't know if it's like moving around or something. Just be careful there.
Oh,
again, we're unplugged here. So I don't know if you're hitting it or something. I know you're trying a new mic setup. Let us know what you think about Brandon's new mic setup. Before we really jump into how to teach your kids about money, I want to mention this over and over again during this video, that we are really serious about helping people break through to a smart, stable financial path. And that journey toward your financial goals and dreams, whatever those look like, is a journey. And it's really important to have a strategy for that journey, like knowing where you are, knowing where you want to go, having a little bit of a course charted out. It's really important to not feel like you're doing that journey alone, even if you do have to do it yourself, right? No one's going to do that journey for you.
Yep.
And you have to make sure that you know how to adjust when the terrain changes or life or changes or business changes. And we have put a lot of thought and effort into thinking about what are some of the formulas, what are some of the common things that need to be thought about, riddles that need to be answered, that kind of thing, as people are looking at their journey. So to help people along their journey, we developed a 1-hour webinar where we talk about what we think are the big 3 rocks that need to be in place in order to feel like you're on that journey, know where you're at on that journey, and continue on that journey no matter what happens in life. So whenever you're watching this, whether it be right when it comes out or months into the future, please go to grandmaswealthwisdom.com/freedom, FREEDOM, freedom, and find what we have there. We're committed to making sure we are providing people some really clear, smart, stable paths that they can be thinking about and adjust, right, for their own hopes and dreams. So that's the best place that you can find it. And join us, whether it be tomorrow or months from now, at grandmaswealthwisdom.com/freedom. Okay, now that I got that little message out of the way.
We got to plug it. It's helping our people. We want to help as many people as possible to break through to a smart, stable financial future. And that's something I was thinking about this topic, right? How do we help our kids do this, right? How do we help our kids see? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. I just wanted to make sure that we say, we want to be really clear here. We have a 2-year-old. We don't have much experience teaching kids about money, but it is something we've been thinking a lot about, and that we taught when we're talking to people, we're asking them about what they learned as kids about money, what they want to teach their kids about money, how those things might be different or similar. And that's a common thing that people often think about. So you might want to start with, what was money like growing up? What are some of the big lessons you learned from your parents about money, or from your grandparents, or from whoever the adults were around you? The mentors, that kind of thing. And then what of that is something you want to pass on to your kids, and what is the new story you want to tell them, right? And the new legacy, the change you want to make. And if you're thinking along those lines, you're thinking past, present, future, that's going to reveal a lot, but it's also probably going to reveal how you're not fully living that legacy. You're not fully living that value system yourself at this point. And that's okay. We're not here to judge. We're not perfect either. We've got a lot to learn, especially about how we're going to mold and shape our little 2-year-old to carry on, right? The legacy. But it starts with that, right? That reflection and that acknowledgement that no one's ever doing it 100% perfectly. But if we can be honest with ourselves and take steps in the right direction, then we're doing way better than we would if we just stood still and didn't do anything, right?
Well, I mean, we don't have an 18-year-old, right? We haven't done all of that whole parenting all the way through, but he does have a bank. He has a couple banks, one for saving, one for sharing, and one for spending. And he gets pennies and dollars, and he knows what it is, and he likes to put them in the things, and we are educating now. The other thing is, he sees what we do right now. He sees the fear. He sees all kinds of things as a 2-year-old. And so for me, some of it's, again, spoken, what we're teaching them about money, and some of it's our own mindsets. I think that's really an important thing to think about.
Yeah, it actually, besides the bank, a fun example of what's happened recently. He has a toy phone, and yesterday he wanted some privacy so he could have his meeting on his phone, and he was trying to get us to leave him alone. I'm like, well, just, if you're going to have a meeting, you should just go to your room. Papa goes to the basement to his office. Mama goes to her room where she's got her office. You can do office in your room, go have a meeting. And he was ready to go have a meeting in his room and talk on the phone.
I don't know who he was talking to.
I don't know either. But that just shows he's already emulating what we do. He sees us talking on the phone, having meetings. He wants to do the same thing.
So if you join in, put a tag in there, or put in the comments #kids, just to let us know you're here, or if you've had that experience. Again, you don't have to be a parent to learn some of this too. Something I've been thinking about recently, and actually as I was preparing for this, is my son loves to build things. He is a builder. He likes to make things as tall as possible and plays with Legos. And I find it really interesting in these building blocks. We build a solid foundation, right? We build a really solid foundation so you can build up, right? But if you don't have a solid foundation, well, there's not going to be a thing, tower, whatever it is.
It's not going to reach higher than you're tall,
Yeah, it's not going to sustain. So you have to build the things around it to go higher. And so he's learning about that, and I was thinking about, man, maybe he's teaching us as we're teaching him, like going back to our finances and saying, okay, do we have a solid, stable foundation? And those are 2-year-old topics, really. And so he's teaching us and others how to build a solid foundation first.
Yeah, anyway. Which shameless plug. If you want to find out what we believe is a strong, solid foundation, go to this link, grandmaswealthwisdom.com/freedom, and join us there, where we talk about how to create that strategy, how to hack your way to wealth, and then how to build true wealth, and what that solid foundation can look like of a strategy that helps you hack and build at the same time.
Adding those extra Lego pieces that you can do even cooler stuff.
Yeah. So I want to fast forward a little bit, and there's been a lot of people that have been comparing, contrasting 2020 to 2008, right? Is what happened to the housing market going to happen here? Is what happened to the stock market going to happen here? How is this, how are we better prepared? How are we worse prepared? Like all the things. And most of what I've been hearing is we've never been through something exactly like this before. This is unique. This is very different. But there's one thing that I think is a really good lesson from 2008. What I've noticed is that the people who went through 2008 had some wealth that got destroyed, maybe, had some great career that they lost their job. The people who learned from that and who made adjustments based on the new normal post the Great Recession, right? They're in a much better place in 2020. This financial crisis, this pandemic hasn't impacted them as much. Just on average, most of the people I'm talking to and hearing their stories. Whereas there are some people who didn't change anything, right? They kept their money exactly where it was, even if they lost it temporarily. They saw it recover. They're not going to move, right? Or maybe they got laid off, but they kept in the same industry once they're able to find a job after a year or two or whatever it was. I feel like they're just going through the same thing over again, right? Yeah. Maybe, hopefully, they're not laid off for as long this time. Hopefully the market doesn't go down as much as it went down then, like all the things. But if they didn't make any adjustments to the new normal post 2008, they're experiencing the same things now that they experienced then. And that really, I think, is a really powerful lesson that I want to be teaching our son, and that I hope lots of parents are teaching their kids, is things are going to change. Right? The world is going to look different. I mean, we live in the 21st century. The world changes like that, right? In so many ways, someone creates a better phone or a new app or whatever it is, and the world is totally different. We have to teach our kids how to make sure their career, their business, their money can all adapt to that change.
Yeah.
If there's going to be great change or there's going to be really difficult change, right? It doesn't matter. It's still change. And if we teach our kids to be adaptable and to learn from that change and to make progress because of that change rather than staying stuck in their ways, I think that's really important. It's kind of an entrepreneurial way of thinking. So maybe I'm biased in that regard. And I do want to say that doesn't mean that they're gumbo, right? And willy-nilly.
Gumby, not gumbo.
Sorry, Gumby, yes. Either both, right? They're not, we don't want them to be gumbo. But doesn't mean they're Gumby, where they, can bend and stretch, and they're just people pleasers, or they're always changing and never committing to something, right? But that they can say, okay, here's, for example, I have this value of loving my neighbor as myself, right? That's a pretty core tenet for me. That's not going to change, but how I express my love for other people might change. It might go from YouTube, for example, to something different, right? Or it might go from helping someone buy groceries to helping Congress pass a law, right? That'll help the less fortunate, or, vice versa. So, but the core value stays the same. And that's kind of when we're thinking about what to teach your kids about money in the 2020 financial crisis, are those core things. And one of those core things is you got to learn through hard times. You got to learn through good times. You got to always be seeking to be a lifelong learner. Always be seeking not growth for growth's sake, but personal development to be a better person, or to suck less tomorrow than you do today, as we've talked about in a recent podcast episode. Those are the kinds of things that are going to set our kids up for success, and that they're going to teach their grandkids, and so forth. So that was one of the things I was thinking about in terms of, if we look at the past and what the past could teach us about what to teach our kids. Anything you want to add to that, Mr. Neely?
I mean, I think, again, it is that foundation and the core of who we are, and how we respond in crisis. That's what really shows in a person's character in all things. And I do think that in our world, there's a lot of things that are built on quicksand, and some of it is our own facade, right? Our own, and we have to look within and say, what do we really believe about this, and how is that affecting the people I care about?
Yeah.
And I think, as this is more than money, and the other factor is, okay, so these things that you maybe this year, this 2008 that happened, it affected people's retirement. It affected their future. They may have to sell on Amazon when they didn't want to, because of stuff. And now they might have to stay with their kids and all of this. So the things that you do now as an adult may in fact impact your children, and they might have to pick up the slack, maybe, if it's a bad thing, or if it's a positive thing. If you've built a solid foundation, you might be able to help them in an even more powerful way, because you went back to the basics.
Yeah. So I think the short story of it is that, so people call this a Black Swan event, when something happens that no one saw coming, and its negative impacts have all kinds of ramifications. The dot-com crash in the early 2000s, Black Swan event. The Great Recession, 2008, 2009, Black Swan event. This pandemic is a Black Swan event. That's 3 within 20 years, right? We don't know if the next one's going to be tomorrow or decades from now, but we know there will be one, whether within our lifetimes, for our kids, for our grandkids, maybe multiple ones. And what we have to be thinking is what are we going to do now to make sure that when the next one happens, ourselves, our families, we're in a better place? Do we want what's happening to us now to happen to us again? Or are we ready to take control, to feel empowered, feel ready to change our destiny, to change our future, to go after those goals and dreams and figure out how to make them happen. And again, not shameless whatsoever. I'm going to really proud that we have helped develop some formulas, some of the questions you need to be asking. We're not telling you what to do. We're saying, here's how you can figure it out. You don't have to figure it out by yourself. There's a whole community of people that can help you figure it out and help you ask the right questions and help you mull over the answers. And all you got to do to find that community, to get that support, to know that you're asking the right questions and learning the right way to formulate these questions is right here. grandmaswealthwisdom.com/freedom. That goes over into Brandon's screen. Go there. I can't say it enough. And if you don't like what you find there, if you sign up for maybe a webinar that's there and you attend and you hate it,
you didn't lose much.
Right. You didn't lose much. And let us know, because we want to improve. We want to make it better for people. But it could just be the thing that makes the next Black Swan event like, psh, right?
Exactly.
Wouldn't that be cool if you got to be in that place? Because there are people in that place right now that are just like, psh, 2020, right? Yeah. Shake it off. Whatever Taylor Swift says, right? Like, she's probably one of those people, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I think it's gonna impact our children however we respond to this. It's going to impact them. And they're gonna either be impacted by the stress in our life because of the situation we're in, or they're gonna be impacted because we've built a solid foundation. Again, a lot of the things that we think about money, we think about our finances, we think about wealth, it has been passed on to us from one generation to the next generation to the next generation. And some of it's good and some of it not so good. And we will be teaching things to the next generation. We will teach bad things to our child. I probably already have.
I know you have. I could list like a handful of them already.
but I also think like, hey, I want to teach really good positive things, and I want him to be in a better place than I was. And even going back to what's happening in the world right now, we want to set it up where our next generation is in a bigger, better place than we were. That they were able to accomplish so much more because we did some of the groundwork, maybe.
Yeah. And I have to say, bigger and better can mean sustainable for the planet and sustainable for them, right? Bigger can mean smaller.
Yeah. Right.
Better can mean subtracting rather than multiplying, or, those words take on the meaning that we attribute to them.
Yeah. Well, and what is our definition of wealth? You want to tell them that? What's our definition?
Let's see if you can pass the pop quiz. What's the grandma's wealth definition of wealth?
Living life to the fullest, being able to
the ability and opportunity to live life to its fullest.
And some of it's in money. Being able to have the things that we need, but maybe, we don't need a Jaguar or something like that.
A big screen TV.
Well, maybe we need a big screen TV.
I'm poking at you.
But maybe it's about freedom, time, being able to do the things with our family and all of that. And that's what's going to be known in this crisis. They're not going to when it comes down to it, a lot of the kids and be like, man, my parents were around for 3 months. That was awesome. Well, we're stressing out, freaking out that they're all over us, or we're trying to work, but they are loving that we are in this position. And so I think take advantage of that, use that. And at the same time, if you're in a hard place, go back to the basics, go back to the building blocks. Before you're going and saying, do I invest in this or that? Maybe we want to build that emergency fund and those things. And that's part of what we talk about in the masterclass or the webinar.
Yeah. So, grandmaswealthwisdom.com/freedom.
Yeah. If there's any questions, put them in the chat. Love that. And if you join us for the replay of the videos, put your comments there. We would love to answer that, help you guys break through to a smart, stable financial future.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see if there's anything else
that we forgot
that we wanted to talk about. I think we covered everything. Oh, let's go back to this idea of the story, right? You're living the story that you will one day tell. And whether it's to your kids, your grandkids, kids that live in the neighborhood, or that you mentor through a youth mentorship program, you're going to tell them stories. I love old people stories, right? They always like meander around a little bit, and then you finally get the like point at the end sometimes, right? But like, honestly, if we feel that every day, that we're living the stories we will one day tell, like, that can feel really powerful. But it's also easy to get lost, to forget that you're on a journey, to forget that it's a story. And actually, for me, I'm kind of a visual thinker. I love charts and graphs because they help paint a picture. You know, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. And the things that I'm tracking, especially with my money, but also in like other places in my life, they show me what the story is in a very like visual way. And when you think about, if you were just to draw a timeline of your life, right? What would that like? And it was an artistic representation. It's not just a straight line, but you know, it has highs and lows, and sometimes goes in circles, right? Kind of a wilderness period, right? Could have all kinds of things. What would this time look like in terms of your mental, in terms of your emotional, in terms of your spiritual, in your relational, and in your financials, right? Personally, we track our net worth, not to see it be going up or down or whatever, but to see the story we're telling, to see how those values that we believe are living out, right? And that shows us something. So actually, part of what we've been developing during this COVID time has been, how do we help people track? How do we help people live the journey and feel like they're living the journey? And again, grandmaswealthwisdom.com/freedom. Brandon will put it there again. Or you can look in the description of the video. That's where you find our latest and greatest developments toward helping people along their own path, along their own journey, and not telling you the answers. I can't emphasize this enough, but helping you ask the right questions. I know so many people are like this when it comes to their finances, going la 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 la. They don't want to think about it, or they're like an ostrich with their head in the sand or whatever. This is an invitation to take the hands off of the ears, to bring your head out of the sand, whatever metaphor works for you, to see where you're at, to take a look around, right? Do a 360. This is where I'm at in my journey. And then say, and here's the steps I want to take forward. And here's why I know these are the steps I want to take. That's exactly what we try to do with people, especially at grandmaswealthwisdom.com/freedom. That'll show you exactly where you can get that invite, where you can be invited into crafting your story with money in a way that will hopefully impact your kids in a positive way, and maybe even change the lives of your grandkids and their kids in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a lot about mindset. It's a lot about maybe some of the stuff that we thought we believe, isn't true, and is tracking certain things. And what you measure often grows if what if you put
or improves. What you measure improves.
Yeah. And so that's something I think is a valuable thing. And if they see us caring about the stability of our family, the finances, that's going to teach our kids more than even what we say. And I think and it's going to give, you're going to be able to be a better giver, all kinds of things, and not just in money, but in time and other efforts. And so, really, what do you have to lose in going forward? And even if it helps you at a 1% better improvement over your life, you go through this program or whatever, and it helps change just a little bit by a percentage or half a percentage. Could you imagine the difference that could make over the long term? I think that's the huge part or the big part about this. And so, and it's going to impact them in positive ways. So,
and I have to say that especially when you're talking about like a 1% shift that then impacts the rest of your life, the sooner you start that, the better. I mean, I was just talking to a woman today, maybe in her 50s, maybe late 40s, I don't know. And she was telling me like, kudos that you started so young with being, thinking about smart, stable financial future kind of stuff. And I was like, honestly, that's my life mission now, is to get more people in their 30s thinking about these kinds of things and taking it seriously. They don't have to give up all the fun, right? They just balance some of the fun with some of the smart and stable part, right? So that when we're in our 50s and 60s, we're not saying, I wish I would have, right? And if you talk to any person in their 50s and 60s and you just say, do you have any regrets? What do you wish you would have done differently when you were my age? I'm talking to you, my people, the 30 somethings, the early 40s, like Brandon, whatever your age is. I challenge you, go ask somebody, maybe your parents, maybe an aunt or uncle, maybe your next door neighbor, whoever it is, go talk to somebody of a different generation, right? 50s and 60-year-olds, and ask them, do you have any regrets? What do you wish you would have done? And listen, learn, do things differently because of what they share. And that is going to help you and help you think about what you're teaching your kids too.
And
sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
If they say they have no regrets, there's always something that we wish we would have done maybe different or in a better way, or something we wish we'd have learned earlier. Not necessarily a regret, but something
something that's not perfect.
Yeah. That we said, man, I wish I would have enacted on this then, or I wish I would have known about this then. And again, that's what we hear so often is, man, I wish I would have known, I wish I would have done this. And to know at the same time, the Wall Street market and all of that, is that a solid place to have depending on our financial future? Is the answers there? That's a question to ask yourself. Does it build stability, or does it build anxiety? Is it building where we are stressing out with our family, or is it building a stress-free place with our family? And those are questions only you can answer. So,
yeah, I think that's a great way to finish off today, Brandon. I'll say it again, grandmaswealthwisdom.com/freedom. Go there, check it out, see what's coming, how we're continuing to perfect and get better at asking the right questions, bringing you the formulas, helping you to break through to a smart, stable financial future using the time-tested wisdom of our grandparents' generation, the greatest generation.
Well, and Amanda's stuff is amazing. She writes really good stuff. So
And Brandon's amazing too. Let's just pat each other on the back. Okay.
All right. Let's end here.
Peace.